Good evening, Alan. Good morning, Veronica. Let's do the Friday investment talk. It's been an exciting week, really incredible. And we still don't know who the U.S. president is, so we're not going to talk too much about politics. Alan, let's talk the effects of the election a little bit, yeah?
So let's not talk about politics, but the election.
But the effects of the election.
Okay, exactly. Yeah, without
Okay.
naming names or getting partisan about it. There's a number of indicators that have come out. Chris, you and I have discussed them over the last few days. And I thought I would show this slide because we've got here, four quite different, three different indices out of four. S&P and Dow Jones, obviously very highly correlated. We've got DAX in Germany, so European stocks. What was their reaction to the U.S. political system? U.S. political situation, and you've got gold, and all of them are showing strong buys, as you can see there. But one of the questions we got this week was, what is the effect of the U.S. elections on oil? And as you can see, not really bullish, not much happening, except strong sell for some of them. This graph, by the way, is from investing.com, from their market insights. So it's just showing that there's along various market analysts that they're kind of in concert. I mean, okay, oil is there's a little bit of deviation between strong sell and neutral, but certainly not bullish. Whereas the equities and gold are, interestingly enough, are in concert in terms of being pretty strong buys just about across the whole board. And we're seeing that the last couple of trading sessions. I think today is a little bit quieter, but there's been a couple of big strong moves up. That's brought in positive indicators for our seasonality, which, Chris, I'm guessing you're going to talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want me to start and talk about a certain sector that I think we haven't really covered in FIT before? And that's been marijuana, legalized marijuana. Especially for use of medicinal purposes. This has been quite an interesting.
Yeah, let's bring up the news first of all. Yeah, Alan. I mean, the news is kind of what led this, right?
I think, as you called it, the greening of America, right?
Yeah, there's a new map. There's the new greening of America, not renewable.
Yeah, there's no blues and reds on that one. That's
right.
That's an unusual map for this week. It's just greens and grays.
Right.
But that's it.
So it was Arizona, Montana, New Jersey, and South Dakota that legalized marijuana for recreational purposes, and Mississippi and South Dakota that legalized marijuana for medical purposes or medical marijuana. And then you had Oregon, the forefront of legalization of everything. It has decriminalized cocaine and heroin, and psilocybin is now legalized if you use it for therapeutic uses.
Basically, I think what is interesting is that there's a number of opportunities with medical marijuana opportunities. We follow an index called it's Horizons Medical Marijuana, HMMJ. I know you've got Curaleaf up, Curaleaf is one of the components of that.
Yeah.
But HMMJ.
Mm-hmm. And then MJ, if you just want to use MJ, that's the one that everybody follows in the United States. So yeah.
But the big positive is Biden presidency is potentially seen as being more liberal. More and more states are moving towards a decriminalization. Remember, in the US, it's not federally allowable yet. So that takes a lot of funding for these companies away from, big venture capital companies and on the stock market. That's why a lot of them are listed in Toronto rather than in the US. I mean, it's an interesting time to get in potentially. I mean, there's an interesting time to get into a lot of things, as we'll talk about in a second, Chris. So
yeah,
I mean, that was an interesting area for me that saw a big upside. We've not really covered it before because we're going over a lot of old ground on FIT. Whether it's gold, whether it's oil, whether it's small caps, whether it's tech. Those are all interesting areas.
I think for non-U.S. investors or for non-North American investors, the whole marijuana thing isn't very clear. Like, it gets political. It gets a little bit of a ethical, moral thing, questionable investing. So, but in America, it is quite a big thing, especially in California where I live. It's, every day we go and do yoga in the park, and you have to breathe in marijuana fumes. So it's quite prevalent
Is
here.
that voluntary or
really,
involuntary, Chris?
Secondhand.
no, this is
Secondhand,
it's voluntary yoga and involuntary breathing of the marijuana. But it's quite funny because your yoga teacher says, "Oh, breathe deeply," and then you pass out.
But now after election day, 1/3 of Americans actually going to be living in the states with legalized recreational marijuana.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
1/3.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
so this
Yeah.
Veronica's actually in the garden. It looks like she's out in the garden smoking now.
Yeah, what kind of tree is that behind you, Veronica?
Okay, we got to get back to seriousness.
In Russia, it's known money tree.
Okay, let's get back to the seriousness of fit. So
yeah, I mean, so that's a kind of an interesting area we've not really covered. We're going to talk,
right.
I think about 5G and
right. So I want to bring up 5G. 5G's got another little ETF. It's called FIVG, 5G.
okay.
And that's an interesting ETF here because that just went into a buy signal. Some of its big holdings are Qualcomm, NXP Semiconductor, Ericsson, which was a trade I should have mentioned in the last week or two. Analog Devices, Xilinx is the big chip producer for 5G. I think it's towers, and Keysight Technology is actually one of the tower producers. So some of this stuff is Skyworks Solutions is a chip maker. So these are basically chip makers for 5G chips in portable devices. And if you look at the charts of things like this Xilinx, you see it breaking out to all-time new highs here. Wow. You see.
Interesting that Ericsson, a blast from the past, is in with those news.
Yeah, did you see what Ericsson did? I mean, this was a great.
No, I was worried for their health, to be quite honest.
Yeah, this is earnings. And actually, it's a great opportunity to get in because on earnings, it went up 11% overnight. Then it gave back all the way, filled the gap, which makes it a perfect reentry here. And it's gone up in the last 4 or 5 days. So this is an interesting stock, not like we used to think of the Ericsson handsets, but so another stock here, Analog Devices, has come down.
Right.
And look at the run up though, 12.5% in 3 or 4 days here. So why is 5G kind of hot? The same reason, maybe in a different way, but the same reason marijuana is hot is you see it's an election theme. In other words, marijuana stocks were being legalized. 5G is probably going to become part of an infrastructure spending bill in the United States. So a lot of money is going to be poured into upgrading networks. So these are political trades, politically motivated trades, and we see both 5G taking off, we see marijuana taking off, and in general, you can see a lot of things, XLI with the industrials, really rebounding on election hopes here of a stimulus package, so up 8%, and these are sleepy companies like Honeywell. Look at Honeywell stock. I mean, right back 14%. The election kind of said, look, one of the things that's really important is there's not a war in the United States. There's no civil war. There's not mass protests and looting, but the election went kind of smoothly, which I think is one of the most important things you can highlight. I mean, today in our brief talk is on our blog here, we published the new bullish trend. So basically there's a seasonal, and there's not only like a shorter term buy signal, but this is the seasonal buy signal went off yesterday, which means this is for people who are bullish in the market. This is the start of this next 6 months of bullishness. And so this is a long-term positive trend.
This is still until about May, approximately.
Yeah, you would start looking in May and even later for the NASDAQ. So June 1st would be the first sell signal for NASDAQ. So it just says, if you're one of these, kind of sleepy, lazy traders, then this is the time you want to actually take your money out of bonds and put them into stocks, whether it's the Qs, whether it's NASDAQ, whether it's the SPY or the diamonds of Dow Jones Industrials. Even those 4 indexes, they're good allocations for the next 6 months. I'd mention I don't really want to go into it too much, but yesterday we had record cases, first-time cases of COVID in the United States, 120,000 cases in the United States in one day. That to me is amazing.
In one day.
Russia officially publishes 20,000. America has 6 times that number. And that's huge. So if anybody thinks that COVID's going to go away and things are going to open up and the economy is going to get better, it may, but that's going to be because of a relaxation of the rules around people living with COVID. But we are living with COVID, 120,000 cases in the United States. And COVID care is going to become a big thing of, I got COVID and I can't go to the hospital, or I'm just going to have to deal with it at home. How are you going to deal with it? Healthcare is going to become a big thing. Biotechnology is going to become a big thing under the Biden administration. We talked about that before, and that really is a great sector.
I think we're going to have to devote one fit in the near future to just talking about COVID and the ramifications of that, because I think that's also an issue for a lot of clients that I've talked to this week who are bullish about the presidency, the kind of the transfer of power, if there is a transfer of power, indeed, to be fairly peaceful and fairly smooth.
The fact that we might have Senate, all Republicans, so check and balance is going to be in place. So this is really positive for the market as well.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I think that people notice is not just an outright blue wave. It's a mix. So that's why gold didn't really budge. And I don't think, gold has a technical setup to really go higher bullishly. But I just wanted to show one stock I thought was fun. This one big red candle. This is Storm Ruger, the gun manufacturer. This was the day of the election. The minute the election came out and there was nobody running to the gun stores to buy guns because there's no civil war, the stock fell 10% in one day. So this is quite an interesting, which to me, this stock is still a long-term great opportunity here to buy. But you shorted guns and you went long the market the day after the day of the election, or the day after the election. So that was quite and then we saw volatility fall, and I think that's really the big signal here that there's no more fear in the market, and the volatility is going to the VIX is still at 25. I mean, there's a lot of room to fall back down.
Very huge.
Yeah, I mean, that means the market can go a lot higher. I mean, people think, oh, I'm not going to chase it. No, just wait for this little weakness. And I just want to bring up the seasonality monthly calendar.
November is traditionally, I think we've covered this as well. November is traditionally in years of US elections, a very strong month.
Yeah, November is a bullish month, and next week is going to has its first bearish day maybe on Tuesday, but after that you have options expiration week, and any weakness next week offers great buying opportunity to get in. So just to see this thing run up 4 or 5% in the indexes and you're scared to jump in or whatever, next week's going to give you that softness, that little bit of an opportunity here to get into the market. So I think we're off to the races after that. You got to have Thanksgiving and then all the trading scenarios around Thanksgiving, and then December and late December for the small caps to pick up steam. So we'll be following that on the blog, and I think that's really worthwhile for more short-term trader types, and that's what.
And long marijuana. There you go.
Yeah, and marijuana too.
We have blue wave and we have green wave.
Exactly.
And health insurance gonna be more expensive going forward, that's for sure.
I'd like to see the research on that run. Let's look into that.
Yeah, which is kind of Barron's writing about that, about health insurance gonna be more expensive, and because of that also managed care stocks gonna go up in America, like Anthem and things like that. But we'll do separate discussion some other day.
That sounds like another good episode of Fit in the future.
Yeah, especially tie it up with our health insurance business line.
All right, guys, and we'll see you next week. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend.
Talk to you later. Good night.